Yo, what's going on? RJ from Game News USA back today with another movie review. Today we're going to go over the review scores for The Wild Robot. And I'll tell you guys, it has one of the highest scores I've ever seen. It has a 98% from the critics and a 98% from the audience on Rotten Tomatoes. Literally almost nobody dislikes this movie. It played the Rotten Tomatoes algorithm to the best. Because remember, that doesn't mean that it got a 98 average like it's a Metacritic score. A Rotten Tomatoes just means 98% of the audience basically said it was good. To be good, you only have to have, I believe it's a 3 out of 5 or a 6 out of 10 or higher to be considered good. So in other words, everybody who watched this movie said, yo, it's pretty good. It's good enough to be a fresh tomato and not a rotten tomato. And the audience felt the same way. 98%. You can't agree with 98% of people on anything anymore. So let's see what this is about. First of all, this is more of a kids movie, a family-friendly adventure animation. So it actually doesn't really appeal to me all that much. So I don't really plan on going to see it. But it just jumped off the page for me when I seen how crazy good the scores were. I'm like, we gotta talk about this. So without further ado, let's look at some reviews. Jeffrey Harris from 411 Mania gave it a 9 out of 10 fresh tomato, saying the filmmaker and the animations at DreamWorks Animation craft a breathtaking, rousing, emotional, and heartfelt adventure. Lupita delivers an exceptionally beautiful, tear-jerking performance through Roz's bond with Bright Bill. So I'm sensing a lot of the Iron Giant vibes, and if that's the case, maybe I will check it out. Maybe I'll wait for it to come out of theaters to streaming or something. John Flickinger with a A- fresh tomato, saying, The Wild Robot was an unexpected emotional roller coaster, gave me the same protective robot feels that I haven't experienced since Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Interesting comp. John Urbanik with a fresh tomato 4 out of 5, saying a parcel of genuinely gorgeous images somehow resembles a roaming painting more than just a motion picture. Casey Chong with a 4 out of 5 fresh tomato. An otherwise familiar coming-of-age animated adventure told with enough heart, humor, and thrills. Stephen Greydanis with a fresh tomato, saying if it's not a perfect movie, it's the best kind of mostly perfect movie. The kind where the missteps, if they are missteps, don't diminish the delight of the perfect parts. Jeff Mitchell with a fresh tomato 3 out of 4. Roz's silicon-based synthetic cadence with underlying empathy and compassion. Lalo Ortega with a 4 out of 5 fresh tomato. In this tender film about the transformative power of compassion and acceptance, DreamWorks delivers one of its most spectacular works. Adam Graham with a fresh tomato, saying it's heartwarming the way a latter-era Coldplay track is heartwarming by design, so its effect feels somewhat synthetic. Ooh, somewhat synthetic. How about Eric Marchin throwing a wrench in the party, a Rotten Tomato, saying, programmed to be wild, DreamWorks Animation deploys an artificial crowd pleaser developed to extract tearful sentiment at the expense of full-fledged storytelling. So we have somebody who does not agree with all these fresh tomatoes. Courtney Lanning with a fresh tomato. Everyone who watches The Wild Robot can come away connecting with something, whether it's an urge to help others, even if they are hurt, you in the past, or learning to say important things to loved ones because you'll never know when it will be too late. That's powerful. Peter Howell with a fresh tomato, giving it a perfect 4 out of 4, saying, "This is the best animated film I've seen all year. Along with the great story and visuals, it's also the best sounding composer, Chris Bowers. The emotional score will pluck heartstrings, real or mechanical." David Harris with a fresh tomato. "The Wild Robot is stunning to watch, but the script prevents the film from achieving instant classic status." Dana Stevens with a fresh tomato. "The Wild Robot is a magnificent family film." That's a pretty straightforward review. Short, but to the point. Thelma Adams with a 4 out of 5 fresh tomato. "The amusing, beautifully crafted animation becomes a talking animal movie, which I love." Mike McGrannon with a perfect 4 out of 4 fresh tomato, saying, "The Wild Robot is likely to create a scenario where a lot of kids look over and are bewildered to find their parents getting misty-eyed." Toy Story 3, I think, did that to a lot of people. Selena Lee with a fresh tomato. "The heartwarming story is amplified by the film's truly stunning animation. Almost every scene has paternally and impassionate and has messy, unguarded emotions its characters and the audience will come to feel." Ryan Sirik with a fresh tomato, saying, "It's mostly just a kind, simple movie about the importance of connecting with others and a celebration of selflessness. You remember selflessness, right? That if it's that thing that people are mercilessly mocked for in modern society." I don't know if I agree with that. Rick Ramiato with a fresh tomato. "The character of Roz the Robot is interesting as Sanders finds subtle ways to humanize something that was never more than a tool for humans to put to work in the gleaming cities that developed after what appears to have been a global catastrophe." Rain Joykin with a fresh tomato, saying, "The Wild Robot is one of the most beautifully animated films of the year, with aesthetics that are closer to the hand-drawn animation of classic Disney than to most contemporary CGI animated films." Kofi Outlaw with a 4.5 out of 5 fresh tomato. "With its visual splendor, a mix of ironic humor for adults and slapstick for kids, a talented cast, and some powerful themes about family bonds, The Wild Robot delivers only the greatest animated features can." Let's go to the next page. John Kirk says in a fresh tomato with an A score, "The Wild Robot is a visual delight. The animation is a clever blending of retro tech imagery and Don Bluth style animation stylings. But it's the heart moments in this film that hit the sweet spot." James Barandelli with a 3.5 out of 4 fresh tomato, saying, "While a lot of animated directors pay lip service to adopting the tenets of the legendary Hayao Miyazaki, few do it in a meaningful fashion. Sanders is an exception, and The Wild Robot deserves mention alongside the work of the Japanese master." Thomas Stoneham Judge with a 4.5 out of 5 fresh tomato, "I'm sure The Wild Robot will be a new go-to animated film for families." Patrick McDonald with a 4.5 out of 5 fresh tomato, "Impressively, this doesn't shy away from predatory actions, and death rebirth is imminent. Also, the mom-child love story is tied to the purpose in taking care of one another, wrapped up in a gift of gorgeous visuals and a monumental work of animation. Aaron Newith with an 8 out of 10 fresh tomato, saying the film looks gorgeous, presents a tale acceptable for almost all ages, and is not afraid of speaking to core aspects of existence. For the film focused entirely on machines and animals, this movie has a lot of heart and intelligence to match. Jana Monji with a perfect 5 out of 5 fresh tomato, saying this film exposes us the reality of the food chain and its cycle of life and death before taking us in a wild fantasy where a robot forms a friendship with a fox as it mothers a gosling runt in this adaptation of Peter Brown's book. Colin Garbidito with a fresh tomato, saying, whether kids have read the book or not, I think they'll enjoy the film. Parents probably will too. Definitely, these family-friendly films are going to sell really well. I'm sure this movie is doing gangbusters at the box office, in addition to these great reviews. But we'll have to see if it's in the Movie of the Year discussion. Just because you're the highest score doesn't make you the Movie of the Year, automatically. Just if you sell well doesn't make you the Movie of the Year. So we'll have to see what happens. Sarah Gupal with a fresh tomato, saying this is an endearing tale of parenthood as well as finding where one belongs in most unlikely of places. It's undoubtedly one of, if not the best animated movies of the year. Roger Moore with a 3.5 out of 4 fresh tomato, saying that rare DreamWorks cartoon that's more about the message and teaching than about laughs and gentle, touching comedy that turns out to be one of the best films this animation house has ever made. We'll talk about DreamWorks. Linda Cook with a fresh tomato, saying, I'm wild about this movie. And that was all the review. James Verme with a fresh tomato, saying, more Pixar-like than DreamWorks animation, beautifully made and very well acted. In the end, is the wild robot a bit tame? William Babini with a fresh tomato, a rare cinematic experience, a very special transfixing film that hits all the right buttons. Natalia Winkleman with a fresh tomato, saying, the circle of life is visible in the wild robot, which embraces its harsh realities with daring. Pat Mullen with a fresh tomato, it gives a jolt to studio animation in a sea in which very few works too often include sequels, reboots, remakes, or an intolerable IP cash grab. That's true. It's good to see something more original. Valerie Calfrin with a fresh tomato, saying a gorgeous and gratifying animated film about discovering where you fit through a robot that experiences empathy. The wild robot encourages an audience's compassion. Celebrating kindness has a survival skill. Juma Fernandez Perez with a fresh tomato, with a simple and powerful message. The wild robot is a cinematic gem that must be seen on the big screen. Ty Burr with a fresh tomato, the film is just fine for little ones and engaging for grown-ups. Allison Rose with a fresh tomato, the director has a lilt and a cadence to her voice that makes Roz sound as sweet and caring as she sounds metallic. Lisa Lehman with a fresh tomato, the wild robot comes alive, has its own creation thanks to the bold creativity of Sanders and the film's other artists. Michael Ordana with a fresh tomato, saying, despite its machine and animal cast, the wild robot is a welcome step towards humanity for big budget studio animation. Guys, we went through all these reviews so far. We've only seen one Rotten Tomato. And we're just now entering the third page. Richard Whitaker with a 3.5 out of 4. Fresh Tomato saying, the edges of love may be messy, but the wild robot understands and expresses beautifully. We're all more than our programming. Hope Madden with a 4 out of 5 Fresh Tomato saying, the writing and delicately lovely animation work together to hypnotic effect, with each unveiling something more human with every scene, regardless of the fact that there's not really a human in the movie. Sean Chandler with an A, Fresh Tomato. One of DreamWorks' best films. It delivers laughs and fun for all ages, but the greatness comes from its powerful messages about parenting and fitting in. Chase Hutchison with a Fresh Tomato. And how about Alex Bentley with a Fresh Tomato, saying the Wild Robot is a solid film with some nice messages for children, even if it falls short of being one that demands an immediate rewatch. Jeff York with a 4 out of 4 perfect score, Fresh Tomato, saying it's rare that a film for the whole family that combines heart, brains, and artistry even exists. Matthew Jackson, A-, Fresh Tomato, saying with its unexpectedly moving sights, remarkable voice ensemble, and pure clarity of humanist vision, the Wild Robot emerges as a stunning achievement. Rosa Pear with a perfect 10 out of 10 Fresh Tomato, saying the Wild Robot is DreamWorks' best film and one of the best movies of 2024. It is a beautiful look at life, parenting, community, and coexistence. Anchored by memorable voice performances, this film is bound to become a classic. Janice Campbell with a Fresh Tomato. In a runtime of 101 minutes, the Wild Robot effortlessly succeeds in reeling the audience into tear-jerking and relatable story of parental love, hope, and believing in yourself. Matt Madem also with a Fresh Tomato. And we actually have our second Rotten Tomato finally. It's from Kyle Smith, who has to throw a turd in our punch bowl by saying, this denial of nature is more banal than inspiring. The robot may grow a heart, but the movie feels strictly mechanical. Dude, you are in the super minority with this opinion, bro. Wall Street Journal, Kyle Smith, do you even have a heart, man? Do you even have a heart? You gotta have a heart. You gotta have a heart to enjoy the Wild Robot. Where is your toxic positivity when we need it? Kyle Smith, did you not have parents that loved you? Did you not grow up in a loving home? What's the deal, buddy? Why so negative, man? Why you gotta be so negative, man? Adrian Horton with a 4 out of 5 Fresh Tomato, saying it was clever, heartfelt, and frequently stunning. The Wild Robot offers the type of all ages welcome animated entertainment that will delight kids and leave a lump in one's throat. A lump? I don't know if I want that. Mark Dusick with a 3 out of 4 Fresh Tomato, saying the emotional core of the story is true, pure, and quite affecting. Someone should have told Kyle Smith that. Daniel Schlossman with a 5 out of 5 perfect score, Fresh Tomato, saying the Wild Robot could rival any of the animated films that I grew up watching. Now that's saying something, because if she's around my age, which I don't know, looking at her picture, probably, I would say, it's hard to compare to the classics. There's a couple things working against it. Number one, 20-something, 25-something years ago, I'm a kid. 30 years ago, I'm a kid. Stuff like The Lion King, would never be overtaken by something like The Wild Robot. But for a kid now that was my age then, The Wild Robot is their Lion King, right? The Wild Robot is their Toy Story. So I'm not going to bash it like that. But me as an adult now, I don't know if I could feel the same feels. You get what I'm feeling? You get my vibe about that? Richard Cruz with a 4.5 out of 5. Fresh Tomato saying the animated The Wild Robot will put you in the mind of E.T., the extraterrestrial, and WALL-E, but carves out its own unique, rewarding space and has the makings of a classic. I think that's one of the best reviews I've heard so far. And comparing it to E.T., comparing it to WALL-E, we hadn't heard those comparisons before, and we've listed like 100 reviews. Jenny Kaplan with a Fresh Tomato saying The Wild Robot is a magnificent accomplishment in animated storytelling. Boy, can we get a review that's any more simple than that, and you get paid for it. Amazing. Anybody could do that review. How about David Kaplan? Maybe that's her husband? I don't know. Fresh Tomato saying this exceptional movie is one for the whole family. There is much for adults to appreciate. Has some of the dialogue and events on screen will pass over the heads of smaller children. Yeah, a lot of cartoons will do this double speak and this double humor where they're trying to humor the adult and humor the child. Most of the people that go to see this movie are just bringing their kids along, and they need to be entertained as well. Kyle Logan with a Fresh Tomato saying the simplification of its initially complex moral universe and Pedro Pascal's not quite up to snuff vocal performance keeps The Wild Robot from being perfect, but it's close. How close are we talking? 98%. And guys, that brings us to the end of going over the review scores for The Wild Robot. Most of you probably already clicked off the video by now anyway. But I hope you enjoyed the content. I hope you enjoyed us going over The Wild Robot. Maybe you'll go see it in theaters. I don't know. Let me know below. Peace. I'm out. Have a good one.